in this next lab, you're going to need a few simple things. Water, just straight tap water. These little cups that were included in your kit. And you could use other types of cups. It doesn't have to be those. Something like lemon or lime juice, some kind of citric juice, and baking soda, which again most people have. And these are fairly inexpensive if you don't have them. It's something you'll be able to get easily from a grocery store. So what we're going to do is, in your lab kit we have a little tube like this, and it's labeled pH test strips. There should be 6 of them in here, 6 little pH test strips. You also have in your kit a guide to decipher the pH. So each little test strip that you're going to see has a couple little colored squares on them. So there should be 4 different squares on them. What's going to happen is, once they get wet with a liquid, based on the pH of that solution, the hydrogen ion concentration of the solution, it's going to change the color of the chemicals on the different pads, and then it's going to match one of these patterns, or at least be very close to one of these patterns. And from that, you're going to be able to decipher what is the pH of that solution, what is the hydrogen ion concentration of that solution roughly. And it actually is fairly accurate. We've used these compared to a digital pH meter and found very, very similar results most of the time. Often the pH meter has errors if it's not calibrated properly, whereas the test strips, as long as they're new, work more reliably for us in the lab. So this is actually a fairly good thing to do. Now the samples I'm going to show you look a little bit different than the ones that you have, because this is what I was able to find here for me today. So you're going to take a test strip like this and then get some, say, tap water. So I just got some tap water in here, soaking it in there, and now it's wet and it's going to change color. And what I'm going to do is, now this is going to look a little bit different from yours. See, I'm going to try to match it up so it actually goes like this. And I'm going to try to compare it, you see, to these colorful strips. You see, it's not pH 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Now it's starting to get, no, not 6, because you can see the second block here looks more green, so it's much closer to 7 on this particular one. Go over here, nope, it's not 8 either, because it's much lighter than that. So it's a lot closer to 7, probably somewhere between 6 and 7. So you can say 6.5, and that would be the particular pH. So first you're going to measure some water. So that was tap water. I'm going to see if there's any different here. This is a deionized water from the lab. Sometimes they're fairly different in pH. Now, you only have 6 test strips. You're going to have to be careful and make sure you plan out exactly what you're doing, or you'll run out of strips. Also, it's not going to change immediately. You're going to have to wait 30 seconds to a minute. Much more than a minute isn't really necessary, but you'll probably have to wait a little bit to get an accurate result. So here we go. This is again the deionized water we have here in the lab. Same thing, looks pretty similar. So I'm going to use either one of these as the starting solution. And what I'm going to want you to do is then adjust the pH of a solution using something that's fairly common and safe that we could use at home. So I had these 2 solutions. They both were roughly pH 7. Right? So I'm going to just use these 2 cups then. And into one of these cups, I'm going to put just some lime juice. And I'll just put 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 drops of lime juice into that and mix it up. And into this one over here, I'm going to put some baking soda. Now, this is a little spatula used in the lab. You could just use a spoon, from at home. Don't put a huge amount, maybe like I'll say the specific details in the lab. And if you can measure it out, that'd be great. About a 1/4 teaspoon is something that you would have at home to measure with. If you don't, just kind of estimate something less than a teaspoon, less than half of a teaspoon. So I'm saying about a 1/4 teaspoon. So we're mixing that up there, and now we're going to get our pH test strips and see what effect did each of them happen. So the first one was the lime juice added to this one. It was originally pH 7. I'm putting this test strip in here now. You're going to see the difference. Okay. So this is the original test strip, just the water before adding the lime juice. And now the second one is the strip after adding the lime juice. You can see here, it's not actually lime lining up well with any of those. It's definitely on the lower end. It's definitely, because this top one would be darker. You can see it just keeps getting darker. So it's definitely something down here on the bottom end, probably somewhere around the 2-3 mark. The ones that I gave you, I've tested out more so than these, and they work very well. They're a little more accurate, so you're going to see this. So this is a low pH. If I have to guess on it, you can kind of see it's like the first one's like a yellow, the second one is sort of a greenish one, then there's an orange one here. The top one is the one that's most confusing. Somewhere probably between pH 2 and 3, it looks like, what we're seeing. We'll take another strip. Now I'm putting this one in the one that I had baking soda. All right, we're seeing the difference here. Again, this is what it was originally with the pH 7. And now you can see with the baking soda coming, I'll just get rid of the one because it makes it too hard. It's getting closer to probably the pH 8. Maybe between the pH 8 and 9, you kind of can see here. We're not quite up here. Now it starts to get around 10, sort of reddish in that third block. And you can see it's still in the greenish range, which means it's down here like 8 or 9. So what happened? The baking soda changed the pH. The lime juice changed the pH. How did they change the pH? One seemed to make the pH go up. The other seemed to make the pH go down. So with one, we got a lower pH reading, the other a higher pH reading. So different types of chemicals can be used to alter the pH of the solution by either adding to or removing hydrogen ions from a solution. And so what you're going to do in this at-home part of the lab is first get your own tap water, and we need to find the starting pH value. And then we're going to try to change it. You're going to lower the pH and raise the pH. You're going to have 6 test strips to do this with, and in the end, you're going to just report out what you used to change the pH and what the end resulting pH was. And then there's going to be a couple pH problems to do. This lab is important because it ties into an enzyme lab that you'll be doing that has to do with the effect of pH on enzyme activity. So in general, just the idea of what are acids and bases, what is pH, how does it all work, and then how does it affect the activity of enzymes, all sort of ties together. So this is just a simple, very simple lab that you can do at home with some household items, but you have to have the pH test strips. This is also how, just as a side note, how you would test the soil pH. For plants, you would get some water, and then you can test the original pH, take the soil, mix the soil with the water, just kind of the way I did with the baking soda, and then test it again with a new fresh pH strip and see what the resulting pH is. And you can test to find if your soil is more acidic or more basic, and that using the exact same type of pH test strips as well.